The spaceport of Volcran Prime was always noisy, but today it buzzed with a strange kind of silence. The usual chatter and clatter of merchants, traders, and travelers had been replaced by a heavy, uncomfortable quiet. All eyes were fixed on the wide platform at the center of the great hall, where two small figures stood alone under harsh lights. They were girls, but not like any the crowd had seen before. One was slender, with soft purple skin and eyes that shimmered like distant stars. Her name was Ayla. The other, Kari, was taller and stronger, with green skin that glowed faintly under the lights. Both wore ragged clothes, dust and grime smudging their faces. They stood side by side, heads lowered, waiting. Around them, the crowd murmured in low voices. Most of the aliens had come to watch the reclamation auction, where lost or orphaned beings were offered to new guardians or colonies. But today's auction was different. These two girls were not prized goods, not valuable cargo. They were cast-offs, left behind after a war wiped out their homeworld and their people. No one wanted them. The auctioneer's voice echoed through the hall. "These two are unclaimed wards of the void," he announced. "No family, no home, and no protector. Who will step forward to take responsibility?" The silence grew heavier. The aliens around the hall shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, pretending not to see the girls standing there like forgotten ghosts. Others whispered about how it was too dangerous or too costly to help them. After all, their species was considered extinct, their bloodlines broken. No planet wanted the burden of raising children who might bring trouble. Still, the girls stood quiet and watchful. Ayla's violet eyes scanned the crowd carefully, but she said nothing. Kari's jaw was tight, her arms crossed defiantly. She refused to show fear, even if her heart was pounding. Minutes passed like hours. No one moved to bid. Just when it seemed the auction would end with no takers, a new voice rose up, clear and strong. "I'll take them," said a man's voice from the back of the hall. Heads turned sharply. A tall human stepped forward. His brown hair was messy, and his dark eyes held a gentle strength. This was Commander Jonah Cross, recently discharged from Earth's stellar navy. He was not rich, nor did he own a large ship, but his presence was different from the others. Where many turned away, he chose to face the girls. The auctioneer blinked in surprise. "You? A human?" Jonah nodded simply. "They're just kids. They need someone." The crowd murmured again, some in disbelief, others in quiet approval. But a few scoffed, shaking their heads. Humans were known for being stubborn and reckless, especially when it came to alien politics. They wondered why Jonah would risk himself for two unknown girls. Jonah made his way to the platform without hesitation. He looked at Ayla and Kari, who now stared back at him with wide eyes, part hope, part fear. "Are you ready to come with me?" Jonah asked softly. Kari's voice was sharp. "Why would a human want us? We're nothing to you." Jonah smiled gently. "I don't see nothing. I see two brave girls who deserve a chance." Ayla stayed quiet but reached out her hand slowly. Jonah took it with care. The auctioneer quickly finished the paperwork. Jonah signed the transfer documents, making the girls officially under his care. As he led them away from the platform, Jonah pulled out 2 small ration bars and space blankets from his pack. "Here," he said. "You'll need these for now." Kari eyed the bars suspiciously but took one. Ayla smiled faintly for the first time. They stepped onto Jonah's ship, the Windfall, a worn but sturdy freighter. Inside, the air smelled of oil and old metal, but to the girls it felt safe. Jonah showed them their small cabin, a place they could call their own, at least for a while. "Why did you choose us?" Ayla finally asked, her voice trembling. Jonah looked out the window at the endless stars. "Because when no one else would, I could. And that's enough." Kari sat down heavily, crossing her arms again. "You don't have to keep us. You can sell us later if you want." Jonah shook his head. "No, I'm not like the others." That night, the girls lay awake in their bunks, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound. For the first time in a long while, they felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, a human could be the family they had lost. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. But inside the windfall, a quiet light of trust began to grow. The windfall's engines hummed steadily as it slipped through the quiet reaches of space. Inside, the ship felt small but alive, a moving home for three very different souls. Commander Jonah Cross sat in the worn control chair, watching the stars streak by. But his thoughts were not on navigation. Instead, they were on the two girls who sat quietly in the cabin behind him. Ayla and Kari had spent the day exploring their new home, touching buttons, peeking into corners, and trying to understand this strange human world. They were curious, but also wary. Trust did not come easily after years of being cast aside. The look in Kari's eyes said, "I won't be fooled again." Ayla's silence hid a mind racing with questions and hope. Jonah knew he had to earn their trust, one small step at a time. The next morning, Jonah prepared a simple meal in the small. A mix of dehydrated vegetables and protein bars he rehydrated carefully. He brought the plates to the cabin where Kari and Ayla sat side by side. "Eat up," Jonah said gently, placing the food on the table. Kari looked at the food with suspicion. "What is this?" "Food," Jonah replied with a smile. "It's not fancy, but it will keep you strong." Ayla hesitated a moment, then took a bite. Kari watched but refused. Jonah shrugged and ate his own meal, showing no rush. Slowly, the girls began to relax. "Where are we going?" Ayla finally asked. Jonah thought for a moment. "I have some work to do at Elthier Station. It's a place where ships come and go. I'll fix some things on the windfall and then we'll find you a safe home." Kari snorted. "Safe home? There is no safe home for us." Jonah looked at her seriously. "Maybe not yet, but I'm going to try." That night, as the ship drifted through the dark, Jonah told stories. He spoke of Earth, a blue planet full of oceans and forests. He described stars he had seen up close, and battles he had fought, not for glory, but to protect others. Ayla listened wide-eyed. Kari stayed silent but did not leave. Jonah shared a saying from Earth, one he had learned as a child. "Where I come from, we don't leave people behind." Kari frowned. "Your people are not like mine." Jonah nodded. "No, but we try to be better." The next day, Jonah took them to the ship's control room. He showed Ayla how to read star charts and use the navigation computer. Ayla's fingers moved quickly over the controls, absorbing the new knowledge. Kari stayed back, arms crossed, watching quietly. "You're smart," Jonah said to Ayla. "Better than most adults I know." Ayla blushed. "I want to learn." Kari grunted. "What good is learning? We are just leftovers." Jonah turned to Kari, his voice firm but kind. "No one is a leftover. You are both survivors, and survivors shape the future." The days passed with quiet routines. Jonah worked on the windfall's engines and systems. Ayla helped by reading manuals and making notes. Kari trained herself in small tasks, lifting tools and practicing control over the ship's basic functions. Despite her tough words, Kari began to smile sometimes, especially when Jonah praised her effort. Ayla's smiles were softer but more frequent, like the dawn breaking after a long night. One evening, the ship's alarms suddenly rang out. A small ship was approaching fast. Jonah rushed to the controls, eyes narrowing. The approaching ship was a patrol vessel from the Zarn Syndicate, known for raiding unprotected cargo and refugees. They did not like people like Ayla and Kari, orphans with no home, easy targets for profit or worse. Jonah's hands moved quickly. "Stay calm," he said. "This could get rough." Kari's face hardened. "I'm ready." The Zarn ship hailed the windfall. "Prepare to be boarded. Surrender the cargo." Jonah replied firmly. "There is no cargo here, just passengers under my protection." The Zarn captain laughed. "You think that matters? Hand them over, or we take what we want." Jonah's mind raced. He knew the windfall could not outrun the patrol ship, but he had a plan. "Ayla, I need you to help me," he said. Ayla nodded, her violet eyes steady. Jonah gave quick instructions. Ayla used the ship's communication systems to send a fake distress call, reporting the windfall as carrying valuable research subjects. The signal scrambled the patrol ship's scanners for a precious few moments. Jonah seized the chance, pushing the Windfall's engines to full power. The ship lurched forward, slipping out of the Zarn ship's reach. The patrol ship fired warning shots, but Jonah ignored them. After several tense minutes, the Zarn ship broke off the chase. Kari let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "You lied to them," Jonah smiled tiredly. "Sometimes you have to protect people by any means." Ayla looked at him with admiration. "You're different from anyone I've met." Kari sat down, exhaustion hitting her. "Maybe you're right. Maybe humans do care." Jonah nodded. "I do. And I will keep caring, no matter what." That night, the three of them sat quietly in the small cabin. For the first time, the weight of loneliness seemed lighter. Together, they faced an uncertain future, but for the first time, it felt like they were not alone. The Windfall moved steadily toward Elthir Station, a busy hub where ships from many planets docked to trade goods and find repairs. Jonah needed to fix the freighter's worn engines, but he also had a job to do, a cargo run that would earn him some credits to pay for supplies and fuel. Ayla and Kari watched the stars from the ship's small observation window. The endless black space dotted with sparkling points made the girls feel both small and hopeful. Jonah had promised them a safer future, and this was their first step. "Why do you work so hard?" Ayla asked Jonah one afternoon as he checked the engine room. Jonah wiped sweat from his brow and smiled. "Because I want this ship to fly strong, and because I want to keep you both safe." Kari folded her arms, her usual scowl softening just a bit. "You don't have to protect us, we can handle ourselves." Jonah shook his head. "Maybe. But you don't have to do it alone." As they approached Elthir Station, the ship's sensors suddenly beeped. Jonah frowned and moved to the control panel. A small group of ships was closing fast. Pirates. The Zarn Syndicate, notorious for attacking vulnerable ships, had found them again. Jonah's jaw tightened. "Get ready," he told the girls. Kari grabbed a wrench and stood by the hatch, ready to defend the ship if needed. Ayla ran to the communication console, fingers flying over the controls to send distress signals and scramble the Windfall's location. The pirates hailed them loudly. "Surrender your cargo or prepare to be boarded." Jonah kept calm. "We're unarmed and carry only personal goods. Leave us alone." The pirate captain laughed over the comm. "Don't waste our time. Hand over the passengers or we'll take what we want." Jonah knew they had little chance in a fight. The Windfall was no warship and the pirates outnumbered them, but he had one plan left. "Ayla now," Jonah said quickly. Ayla launched a program they had prepared just in case. It sent false signals that made the Windfall appear as a heavily guarded research vessel carrying priceless technology. The signal confused the pirates for a precious few moments. Jonah pushed the engines hard. The Windfall lurched forward, gaining speed. The pirates fired warning shots, but Jonah ignored them. Slowly, the Windfall pulled away, slipping out of the pirate ship's range. Kari let out a breath and wiped sweat from her brow. "You tricked them," Jonah smiled tiredly. "Sometimes to protect people you have to be clever." Ayla nodded. "You're smart. I like that." Kari sat down, still tense but calmer now. "You're not like the others who left us behind." Jonah looked at them both, feeling a deep sense of responsibility. "I don't want you to feel alone again." For the next few days, the Windfall moved through the star lanes toward Elthir Station. Jonah repaired parts of the ship, while Ayla learned the basics of navigation and communication. Kari tested her strength by helping in the engine room, surprising Jonah with her quick learning and determination. The girls were changing, not just because of Jonah's care, but because they believed slowly that someone cared about them. When they finally docked at Elthir Station, the vast spaceport buzzed with activity. Traders, merchants, and travelers from dozens of species moved through crowded halls and docks. Jonah led the girls through the station. They saw towering market stalls filled with strange goods, alien foods, and glowing technology. But the girls stayed close, wary of the crowds. Jonah smiled gently. "We'll stay here for a while. I have some friends who can help us." At a small repair shop, Jonah met an old friend, Captain Myers. She was an Earth diplomat, and her calm presence gave the girls a strange feeling of safety. Myers looked at the girls with kind eyes. "They're lucky you found them, Jonah. But you should know not everyone will welcome them here." Jonah frowned. "Why not?" "Some species think orphans from extinct worlds are trouble. They don't want to share resources or risk political problems." Kari crossed her arms. "We're not trouble." Myers nodded slowly. "I believe you, but you must be careful." Over the next few days, Jonah and Myers worked to repair the windfall and prepare the girls for the next step in their journey. They talked about the possibilities, a new home, schooling, even citizenship. Ayla listened with growing hope. Kari remained cautious but didn't argue. One evening, as the station's artificial sun set behind tall towers, Jonah took the girls to a quiet park area. "Look around," he said softly. "This place is full of different people, different stories. But here you belong too." Ayla smiled and reached for Jonah's hand. Kari hesitated, then took it as well. Jonah squeezed their hands gently. "No matter what happens next, you're not alone." That night aboard the Windfall, the girls lay side by side feeling something new. Hope. They didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but for the first time, they knew they had a protector, and that made all the difference. Elthier Station was a place filled with noise, light, and endless movement. Ships arrived and departed, merchants shouted their wares, and travelers of many shapes and colors passed through the busy halls. Yet inside the Windfall, docked in a quiet corner of the station, a different kind of stillness settled. Jonah was busy fixing the freighter's engine, but his thoughts often drifted to the two girls. Ayla and Kari sat near the observation window, staring out at the endless stars beyond the station's walls. The past days had brought them closer, but there were still many questions they needed answers to. "Jonah," Ayla said softly, breaking the silence, "can you tell us about your home? Earth?" Jonah paused, wiping grease from his hands. "Earth. It's a blue and green planet, full of water and forests. Many kinds of creatures live there. It's the place where I grew up." Kari frowned. "Why do you care about us? Your world is so far away." Jonah looked at her with steady eyes. "Because where I come from, every person matters, no matter their past or their color or where they come from." Ayla's eyes grew wide. "That sounds different from what we know." Jonah nodded. "It is. Earth has had its own troubles, wars, struggles, hard times, but people there believe in something important. Everyone deserves a chance to live and to be treated with respect." Kari crossed her arms. "That sounds like a story." "It's not just a story," Jonah said. "It's a promise people try to keep." Curious, Ayla stood and moved toward the ship's small library. Jonah watched as she pulled out old data, tablets dusty and worn from years of storage. "These are Earth's histories," Jonah explained. "Records of people, events, and laws. Some of it is old, but it shows how humans try to be better." Ayla scanned the tablets, her fingers tracing lines of text and images. Kari hovered nearby, still skeptical but unable to look away. "Look here," Ayla said, showing Jonah a passage about Earth's Universal Refuge Code, a law meant to protect those without a home. "It says humans will take in the lost, the cast aside," Ayla read aloud. "They promise to keep them safe." Jonah smiled. "That's right, it's not perfect, but it guides us." Kari's voice was quiet but firm. "I've never heard of a law like that in our world." "Most haven't," Jonah said. "But maybe with time, things can change." Later that day, as the station lights dimmed and artificial stars twinkled in the sky dome, Jonah took the girls for a walk through a quiet corridor. They passed walls lined with pictures and plaques telling stories of explorers and heroes. "People from Earth have always faced challenges," Jonah said, "but they believe that kindness and courage make all the difference." Kari looked away. "What if kindness is not enough?" Jonah stopped and looked at her. "Kindness is where it starts, and courage is what keeps it going." For the first time, Kari's tough exterior softened. She took a deep breath and nodded slowly. That night, as the Windfall drifted gently in its docking bay, Jonah sat with the girls and told them about Earth's struggles, not just the wars and battles, but the small acts of bravery and care that made a difference. Ayla listened closely, her violet eyes shining. Kari sat beside her, silent but thoughtful. Jonah reached out, placing a hand gently on each of their shoulders. "You're not alone anymore. You have a place here." The girls exchanged glances. The fear and anger of the past days still lingered, but so did a new feeling, hope. Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine, endless and bright. And inside the Windfall, the promise of a new beginning took root. The sun over Elther Station was artificial, a soft orange glow from the station's lighting system. Inside the crowded halls, people of many species hurried to their destinations. Traders called out prices, children laughed, and everywhere the station buzzed with life. Jonah, Ayla, and Kari moved carefully through the busy corridors, heading toward the market district. Jonah had to pick up some supplies to fix the Windfall before their next journey. As they walked, Kari's sharp eyes scanned the crowd. She didn't like being in places so crowded and noisy, but she stayed close to Jonah and Ayla. Ayla held Jonah's hand lightly, her violet eyes wide with wonder. Suddenly, the station's emergency alarms blared, echoing through the halls. "Everyone, stay calm. Evacuate the area," a loudspeaker announced. Panic spread quickly. People began rushing toward exits as security droids rolled through the crowds, issuing orders. "What's happening?" Ayla asked, gripping Jonah's arm. Jonah's face grew serious. "We need to find shelter. Something's wrong." They turned a corner and saw flames licking the walls of a nearby corridor. Smoke filled the air, and people shouted, trying to find their way out. Kari clenched her fists. "This is an attack." Jonah nodded. "We need to help." Without hesitation, Jonah led the way toward the chaos. Kari followed, brandishing a heavy wrench she had picked up earlier. Ayla stayed close, eyes alert. They found a group of frightened civilians trapped near a broken security door. Jonah quickly worked the controls to open the door while Kari helped guide the people to safety. "Stay close," Jonah called. "Follow me to the evacuation point." The crowd moved quickly, but the fire was spreading fast. The station's security forces were overwhelmed by the attackers, a rival species claiming the station as their own protectorate. Jonah's ship was not armed, but that did not stop him. He used every skill he had learned in the Stellar Navy to help protect the people. Kari surprised Jonah by stepping forward to block a narrow passage where the flames threatened to cut off escape. She stood firm, swinging her wrench to clear debris and keep the path open. Ayla worked with the station's communication system, sending distress signals and coordinating rescue teams. Together, they became a small but fierce team, saving dozens of lives. When the immediate danger passed, station officials arrived. They thanked Jonah and the girls but had another plan. "The girls must be separated for evaluation," an official said. "It's protocol." Jonah's jaw tightened. Stay with me, I won't let them be split up." The official frowned. "You are human. You do not understand our laws." Jonah shook his head. "I do, and I know what is right." He pulled out a small device, a relic from Earth's Stellar Navy. It contained an old override code called Protection Clause Alpha. "It says," Jonah explained, "that humans will protect vulnerable individuals no matter the species." The official's eyes widened. "That code has not been used in a century," Jonah smiled. "Maybe it's time it was." The official hesitated but saw the determination in Jonah's eyes. "Very well. The girls remain with you." Kari looked at Jonah with respect. "You really mean it?" Jonah nodded. "I do. You're family now." Ayla smiled, her violet eyes shining in the dim light. For the first time since their journey began, they felt safe, not just from enemies, but from a system that saw them as nothing. The Windfall's engines purred as they prepared to leave Elther Station behind. But the fire they had faced was not just in the halls. It was a spark that would change how the galaxy saw the lost and forgotten. Together, Jonah, Ayla, and Kari were ready to face whatever came next. The Galactic Concord Tribunal chamber was vast and cold. High ceilings stretched far above, and rows of seats filled with representatives from many alien worlds looked down on the small group standing before them. Jonah Cross, the human who had taken in 2 orphaned alien girls, stood firm but calm. Beside him were Ayla and Kari, no longer frightened but determined. The tribunal's head judge, a tall figure with shimmering blue skin and many eyes, spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "Commander Jonah Cross, you are accused of violating species custodianship laws by taking custody of 2 unclaimed juveniles without proper authorization. How do you plead?" Jonah's voice was steady. "I plead not guilty. I did what was right." The chamber buzzed with murmurs. Some representatives nodded in approval. Others shook their heads in disbelief. One by one, the tribunal members asked questions. Some were harsh, others curious. Jonah answered honestly. He explained how no one else would take Ayla and Kari, how he saw them as children in need, not as burdens or property. When it was time for the girls to speak, Jonah looked at them with quiet encouragement. Ayla stepped forward first. Her violet eyes shone with courage. "I was lost," she said simply. "No one wanted us. Commander Jonah saved us. He gave us a chance to live, to learn, to be safe. That is all we ask." Kari followed, her green skin bright under the chamber. Lights. "I did not trust humans before, but he is different. He sees us as people, not mistakes. I want to stay with him." The tribunal fell silent. No one had expected the girls to speak with such strength. Suddenly, the doors opened and a new figure entered, the Earth Ambassadorial Envoy, a woman dressed in the sharp uniform of Earth's interstellar fleet. She walked confidently to the tribunal center and addressed the judges. "Honorable members of the Galactic Concord, Earth recognizes these children as sovereign individuals under our Universal Refuge Code. They are now Earth citizens. By law, Commander Jonah Cross has full custody and protection over them." Gasps and whispers filled the chamber. One judge spoke, voice tinged with surprise. "The Universal Refuge Code has not been cited in over a century." The envoy nodded. "Earth believes in the dignity and worth of every being, regardless of origin. We stand behind Commander Cross's actions." The tribunal members exchanged looks. Some leaned forward to examine ancient data records. The law was clear, though rarely used. After hours of deliberation, the head judge returned. "Commander Cross, this tribunal recognizes the validity of your claim. The girls are to remain under your protection as citizens of Earth. Your actions, while unconventional, are hereby accepted under interstellar law." Relief flooded Jonah's face. Ayla and Kari smiled, their hope growing stronger. As they left the chamber, Jonah said quietly, "This is just the beginning. There will be challenges ahead, but we'll face them together." Ayla looked up. "Together." Kari nodded. "We are not alone anymore." Outside the tribunal, the stars shone bright. The galaxy was vast and often harsh, but today, a small light of justice and humanity burned stronger. The windfall was no longer just a rusty old freighter. It had become a home, a sanctuary, and a symbol of new beginnings. Jonah Cross stood at the ship's helm, feeling the hum of the engines beneath his feet, and beside him, 2 bright faces looked out at the endless stars. Ayla had changed from the quiet, unsure girl who once stood alone on that auction platform. She was now a confident young learner, eager to absorb knowledge and ready to face new challenges. Kari, once defiant and closed off, had softened too. She still carried her fierce spirit, but had begun to trust Jonah and herself in ways she never thought possible. Jonah smiled as he watched them. They were his family now, and no matter what the galaxy threw their way, he was ready to protect them. Back on Elthir Station, the official paperwork had been completed. The tribunal's ruling had cleared the way for Jonah to become their legal guardian under Earth's interstellar laws. The girls had been granted Earth citizenship, giving them rights and protections no other had offered. With official IDs in hand, Ayla and Kari looked at each other with wonder. For the first time, They felt a real sense of belonging. "Look at these," Ayla said softly, tracing the letters on her new identification card. "We're Earth citizens." Kari nodded, a small smile breaking through. "It feels strange, but good." Jonah put a hand on each of their shoulders. "This is your new beginning, but it's just the start." Over the following weeks, life aboard the Windfall settled into a new rhythm. Ayla began training as a communications analyst, learning to operate the ship's complex systems and decode signals from distant stars. Her sharp mind and quick fingers made her a natural. Kari surprised everyone by choosing to study engineering. She loved the ship's engine room, the feel of tools in her hands, and the satisfaction of fixing something broken. Jonah helped her learn, proud to see her strength and determination. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, Jonah gathered the girls in the small common area. The stars outside twinkled like tiny diamonds scattered across the black velvet sky. "I have an idea," Jonah said. "We should give the crew a proper name." Ayla and Kari looked curious. "You see," Jonah continued, "we're not just 3 people on a ship. We're a crew, a family." Kari grinned. "Windfall crew." Ayla smiled brightly. "Jonah Cross, Ayla Cross, Kari Cross." Jonah nodded, touched. Exactly. From that moment on, the Windfall was more than a ship. It was their home, their future. News of Jonah's courage and kindness began to spread across the galaxy. Stories told of the human who took in 2 alien girls no one wanted, not for profit or fame, but because it was the right thing to do. Slowly, others began to follow his example. More humans stepped forward, offering shelter and protection to those abandoned by their worlds. The galaxy, harsh and wide, began to feel a little smaller, a little kinder. One day, as the Windfall sailed through the calm waters of space, Ayla looked out the window and whispered, "We're finally safe." Kari squeezed Jonah's hand. "And we belong." Jonah smiled, eyes on the distant stars. "Where I come from, we don't leave people behind, and now, neither do you." Together they faced the unknown, a found family bound by courage, hope, and the promise of a better future. The stars ahead shone bright, and their journey was only just beginning.